Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today we are taking a look at Hero Art's brand new jean jacket stencils. This is releasing today, March 15th, 2026, and we are going to make a card that is a little bit different. So this is a 5-piece stencil set. You get your main base. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but it says base on there. You get your base stencil, and then you get 2 stencils for the front of the shirt, and it will ultimately end up looking like that. We are going to put those aside, and we are going to use the back of the shirt because I want to make a wedding card. I have a feeling that a lot of the cards we are going to see are jeans jackets, which would be blue typically, but we are going to change it up a little bit and we are going to make a wedding card. So for my first shirt, we are going to be using a gray. I've got Hero Hues Granite here. And when I ink up my first stencil, I'm going to make sure to kind of tap off because I don't want my gray too terribly dark. And you know what? I think that's probably good. This gray will smooth out a little bit. I got it a little blotchy there, but it will smooth out. So that is our first stencil. Then we've got stencil number 2 here. And this is a larger area of our kind of, I don't want to call them wrinkles, but you know, the folds in our shirt. And we can always kind of lift that stencil up and see how dark that is. We will be cutting off some of the bottom because we are turning this into an A2 card. And as you can see in my sample for the front of the shirt, it really takes up almost the whole panel. So we will be cutting some of this off. And we've got wedding season right around the corner. So I thought to myself, you know what, let's do something a little different. So with our third stencil, we will go a little heavier. We want to get all those stitching marks in there and just make sure that everything really shows up. And that is perfect. So we actually need 2 shirts for our card. So I am going to flip my stencil over. My stencil was originally like that. That's the front of the stencil. And I am going to flip that over because I want my shirts to look at each other. So next I'm bringing in Azalea. And I'm going to try to keep this pretty light. I don't want to go too heavy-handed. I don't want it real dark. I want a nice pale pink. So this stenciling goes really fast. You can see we're on stencil number 2, and you can coordinate these colors to match the wedding party. So if they're purple and gray or purple and black, blue and lighter pink, you can make these shirts any color. On to stencil number 3, and we'll go a little heavier this time. And I'm using my big brushes from Spellbinders, and these cover a large area so quickly. Let's see what we've got. Maybe just a little bit darker. Take that tape off of there. I don't want it too dark, but I do want definition in the stencils. So now that we are done stenciling, we need to cut these out because we are going to layer them, and I want to put 2 on one card. So I've got my little scissors here, and these lines are really easy to follow. I'm just going to cut around the outside of the shirt, and then I will trim the edge with my trimmer. And I am not one for fussy cutting, but this is really easy. So my shirt's trimmed out really easily. That was super quick on stenciling and trimming that out. I've got my base panel here in Raven at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I've got a layering piece at 4 by 5 1/4. And we just need to figure out how we want our shirts placed. I know I want my gray one on the left and my pink one on the right. So I'm just kind of looking at those, seeing if that's how I want them placed, and I think that is. So I'll just bring in a pencil. I'm going to do my gray one first, and I'm just going to draw a line on the back and trim that off. I can double check that, make sure that's placed well, and then I can bring in my pink shirt, have that one be up just a little bit higher, and then I will flip that over and do the same thing. I'll just draw my line where I want to trim that. I'm just double checking that I've got those trimmed how I want them. Now I will add foam tape behind my gray one and my pink one. So with the foam tape behind my gray shirt, I am just going to carefully line that up along the edge. I can place that one. And then when I add my pink shirt, I need to make sure that I don't add foam tape right here. We're only going to put it on the part of the shirt that does not touch the gray one. So I've got foam tape and thin foam squares on my pink shirt. Let's get that lined up. And then we can go ahead and add this to our black layering piece. And for that, I will just use liquid glue. I hope everybody is doing well. The weather here is absolutely gorgeous. And with liquid glue, we can kind of nudge that around and get it right where we want it so everything is nice and centered. And then I do have quite a bit of other stuff already prepped for us. I've got my Mr. and my Mrs. and I cut those from Spellbinders B bold uppercase alphabet and the B bold lowercase alphabet. And I did stack those 3 times. So each letter is 3 layers. Then I've got my little hat here for my gray shirt, and I pulled the hat from a special toast. I thought that would be perfect in there. And then for my floral images, I've got one that is already sort of assembled here. I pulled my floral images from these scallop journal cards. I just love that spray. And we need to add a little bit of color to our flower centers and accents. And I've already got these all die cut out, but I want to add color. And I'm just going to bring in that pink blending brush, and I'm just going to lightly tap on my images. I don't want them too dark. We do need a little bit more color though on there. And that way they match my shirt perfectly. I could have stuck them all on my sticky mat, but this is quicker. So with all my centerpieces and my flowers shaded, we can go ahead and add those to our little spray here. And it was actually kind of cute. I found out that these flowers, these little pieces on our, I'm not sure what kind of flower they are, but if we butt these up together, they look like a butterfly. So I cut extra of those so we can add a butterfly to our card. And for my sprig here, which would normally be green, I did do that in fog. I wanted to keep my color palette gray and pink, so I cut that out of fog. We'll just add our centers here, and that just adds a little bit of color so we can set these other pieces aside. We will need a couple butterflies though. And then we can take a look at our letters, and I am just going to figure out exactly where I want these placed. I do have a thin piece of paper, so I can just try to get those letters nice and straight. And I think for our misses, we should probably put it right about there. And what I'll do here is I'll just take a piece of masking tape and hold that in place. And I will just add a little bit of glue to the back of those letters. And I know I need to be over a little bit more because it's not real centered from the top. So I just need to put that over a little bit. I think those are spaced pretty well. We can move those around if we need to, just a little bit. Now let's work on our mister, and we'll do the same thing. I know I want my hat kind of centered. I'm just going to look at that. We can place a little more tape to keep that straight edge there for us. We can add our M and our R. Perfect. Give those a second to set up. Then we can add our sprig here, and I have added thin foam squares to the back of those flowers. Then I've got a couple hot foiled sentiments here. And for these, I used my favorite Always and Forever sentiment strips. And I just foiled those in matte matte silver foil. I've got foam strips behind that. Let's just bring in our T-ruler to make sure we get those nice and straight. And then we can take a look at our little butterfly pieces here. They're not really a butterfly, but they make the shape of a butterfly. So let's add a couple of those, actually maybe just one. And we can add that right there. And that's perfect. That looks like a little butterfly. It's so cute. Then we've got a couple more flowers here. These are in just white. I know we inked up some others, but I think I want some contrast in there. I don't want all my flowers to be pink, so we'll just scatter these. And that card is done. I think this came out so cute. I love that spray of flowers on our Mrs. shirt, and we've got some gems I added in there. I used Spellbinders Color Essential Gems in Spectrum, and it's just adorable. I wish my little butterfly was more out of a slant, but it did dry too quickly. I might try to remove that and add another one, but I just love that. That came out so cute. And then I've got a couple other samples here. I was also sent the Totally Awesome stamp set with these stencils, and I used a couple of those sentiments. We've got You're One of a Kind, and then we've got You've Got Flair. I used that same alphabet set to create my Love You, Miss Your Face, and this is hilarious. We've got Gag Me with a Spoon, Chin Up, No Duh, and that is just, I love this stamp set. It is so cute. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Everything I used will be listed in the description below, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.